Welcome to Metrics That Matter. We will learn how to make sense of your fundraising data to make better decisions and raise more money with less effort. Brought to you by fundraisingreportcard.com, a simple and free analytics and reporting tool for nonprofit pros. Now measuring is easier than ever with fundraisingreportcard.com.
Hey, it's Michael Jordan Day.
No, it's not. It's Pi Day. No, it's not Pi Day. It is Michael Jordan Day.
It's Michael Jordan Day, 3-2.
2-3.
2-3. That's
3-2.
Why did I say 3?
What famous athlete wore the number 32? I'm trying to
I
think.
don't know.
I think like
32.
Edgerrin James, a running back, used to wear 32 maybe. I don't know. But it is episode 2-3.
It is.
The Michael Jordan episode, because Michael Jordan wore the jersey number 23.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably going to be the best episode of Metrics That Matter.
Until season 4, episode
Yes.
5.
Yes.
You know, the glorious return of the Michael Jordan number.
When MJ comes back. I wonder what number he wore when he played baseball for that short period of time that he played baseball. How many people do you think have stopped listening at this point?
I mean, who doesn't love Michael Jordan?
Exactly. Okay, you know what? Yeah, Michael Jordan is a good guy. I don't think he's done anything that makes him, Yeah, I like Michael Jordan.
We'll get all sorts of feedback of stuff we didn't know about.
The thing is, though, Michael Jordan is very data-driven.
He is.
Yes.
He is the first, billionaire athlete, and you don't do that without having good data on your side and, following good business practices as you as a fundraiser and nonprofit should be doing on the nonprofit side of things.
I think if there's no other key takeaway from today's episode, before we even get into the questions, it would be that you should be the Michael Jordan of fundraising and become the first $1 billion fundraiser. Yeah.
Wow. That's one hell of a way to start an episode.
All right, so maybe this won't be our best episode, but I'm excited for today's questions, Tim.
Yeah.
I know we've got quite a few, so...
we're doing, once again, 3 more. And you can send your questions in, as these people have, either by emailing me, tim@imarketsmart.com. But the way we really want you to do it is call our awesome phone number at 575-815-4573, just like Amanda from West Michigan did. And here's her question.
Hi, this is Amanda Mulder. I'm from West Michigan, and I work for a small nonprofit called 20 Leaders. We do clean water projects internationally. And I have been looking at my data a lot lately, and I'm wondering how other people are dealing with outliers in their data, particularly when we're working with third-party events, where we've got, in our case, usually a church that will be fundraising on our behalf, collecting small gifts from their congregation, and then sending us a single check. It's not really a $20,000 gift. And so how are other people, kind of taking that data and interpreting it so that we're not looking for those $20,000 gifts? We're able to see in the data that that's, 200 small gifts. Anyway, I would love to hear what you guys can put together in terms of best practices on that subject, but thanks. Bye.
Awesome. So I think I've had a conversation with Amanda once before in the past, so it's great to hear your voice again, Amanda. And Tim, we've got 2 things that we're going to talk about here.
Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting question.
It really is. And this is one that kind of has implications on accounting best practices, right? Because it's accounting reconciliation. So how do we account for things on our books, in our books, and ultimately in our database? And then the other piece of the puzzle here is, what do we consider an outlier? And that's really, an area where we can dive in a little bit deeper. But let's start with kind of best practices, because what Amanda's describing, where another organization is kind of maybe potentially doing some of the fundraising, or you're getting a contribution from a foundation or something like that, how do you understand or reconcile where the actual money is coming from? One of the recommendations that I would make, Amanda, is that if you have a relationship with the church, for example, that's doing that fundraising, if you can get the source data, you're in a good situation, because then you can actually see all of those small contributions. Sure, you might log in your database that you've got a 20,000 contribution from the church, but if you can ask them for that source, where did all that $20,000 come from, and also upload that to your database, you now can start to reconcile where that 20,000 came from.
I guess it would change on case-by-case basis, but did those individual donors opt into being a part of your database? And also the other question you'll probably not be able to get answered at all places is if they're passing around a basket with people just throwing in money, you won't have that data at all.
We talked about this, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, 2 episodes ago, where we talked about with marketing acquisition, how hard it is to really say where someone came from. Yeah, and if a basket's being passed around and money's ending up in it and then it's all being tallied up, how the heck do you reconcile that? How do you know that Jane Doe contributed 10 and John Doe contributed 5? And that all those small dollar contributions would pull down your average donation amount when you're reviewing that year over year.
The other thing I just want to bring up is I'm not sure how most databases are organized, but you have individual people or couples or whatever the case is, but you also have companies, churches, organizations, not people that aren't people giving to you. Are the not people a part of the main data? Like, how's that work, Zach?
Yeah, so that was my inclination when I first started partnering with these organizations, especially once we built Fundraising Report Card. I was like, Amanda, hey, just exclude organization donations from your upload. And it's just not as simple as it seems. So from my experience, seeing some of the big players out there, the really popular databases in CRM, they're not set up in such a way where they have by default, like this came from a foundation versus this came from an individual. Primarily, they have that core functionality of this was a donation, and then you can maybe add some custom tagging or custom things that start to delineate, where that came from in terms of type of person. Okay. Yeah, there's even, you brought up couples and stuff like that. Ugh, that is a huge area sorry, Amanda, we're going down this tangent, but how do you know that John and Jane are together, and then you got the one gift from John and the one gift from Jane, and does your database allow you to merge them together, and then who are you merging into who, and now there are a couple, like...
Sounds like we need some better software out there.
I mean, yeah, well, databases are tricky in general. You have to really think it through from like a common sense standpoint, like what is the outcome that I want? And that's why, back to Amanda's point with this potential outlier, whenever you're doing any analysis, it's either you exclude that outlier, and let's get into how to identify an outlier in a second, or when you're reviewing that data with that potential outlier, you recognize that there is an outlier involved, and you need that context, that outside, the numbers are the numbers. A human being has to be there to understand, okay, this 20,000 doesn't actually represent 20,000. So either we're excluding it or we're including it, but we're keeping that in the back of our mind, and we're actually going to share that with everyone when we're discussing the metrics that we're analyzing.
When you talk about outliers, you have the large numbers. Do you also exclude the really tiny donations as outliers as well?
So, so there's maybe it's not super simple, but there's a way to identify outliers. That is from my high school statistics class. And I've got it pulled up here.
Range and all
so,
that.
Okay, so it has to do with the IQR, Tim. So do you remember?
I don't remember this part of math.
I don't remember much of that. No, I'm kidding. So the IQR is the interquartile range. Okay. Right? Because you have your 4 quartiles,
sure.
Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. So if you were to take all of your, in this case, we're talking about donations. So if we were to take our donations and we were to look at the first quartile, so the number of donations that would be at the 25% mark, if we lined them up, and the third quartile, the 75% mark, so we've lined up our donations from smallest to largest, we want to know what is our IQR. It's that range in between Q1 and Q3. So the way then that you find an outlier on the low end is you take your Q1 value, so that's going to be that 25% one, and you subtract it from 1.5 times your IQR. Okay, so your IQR is your Q3 minus your Q1. That's how you get that range of what exists between the 75th percentile and the 25th percentile. And then you take Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. We're totally putting this in the show notes so that people have access to some written documentation. Same deal for Q3. You're going to do Q3 instead of minus in this case, though, because we're looking for larger outliers. You're going to do plus 1.5 times the IQR. If your number, oh man, Tim's giving me the look. We're definitely show notes in this.
This should be a blog post. I don't know if it's already.
You know what? And that's actually what's great about these questions is, thank you, Amanda. You totally helped me out with blog post ideas. But yes, we'll definitely write this one up. But the idea is that you should be able to take a little bit of a scientific approach to how you identify what an outlier is, and you'll actually be surprised. Once you do this method and you're using quartile ranges, you will see some numbers that you wouldn't have thought were an outlier are an outlier. And the way that you get rid of outliers is you remove those outliers using this method and then reassess the data set and then get rid of the next outlier all the way down until you no longer have an outlier when you're using this range analysis.
So this is a feature request as a fundraising report card, the go-to person there. Have this built into that. Some outlier graphing here.
We definitely probably should have a feature that allows you to remove outliers. Oh my, I just opened up a can of worms for our development team.
But yeah, we make no promises with that whatever be added, but that would be a great feature.
So Amanda, so to recap here, you have an understanding, hopefully, of what an outlier is. We're going to give you some written materials to help really solidify that you have that documentation. And then in your particular instance, which I know other organizations are running into, other directors of development that are in your shoes have this problem, it's either you're going to analyze with that information and you're going to have that in the back of your mind, and in all the narrative that you provide with the data and metrics that you know, when you're sharing this with others, you're mentioning that. Or best case scenario, you're able to get the source information so that you can start to reconcile what is actually entering into your database. As Tim brought up, there's some, you know, holes and hurdles that you have to kind of get through or jump over, but that would be the best case scenario here.
Great. And thank you, Amanda, for that awesome question.
This episode is brought to you by us here at MarketSmart and the Fundraising Report Card. What is the Fundraising Report Card? Well, it's a free service offered at fundraisingreportcard.com that enhances your fundraising efforts with easy-to-use analytics and charts. Get your proposals approved faster by using these beautiful and elegant charts created automatically with fundraisingreportcard.com. You'll also find a great blog that dives deep into what data means for your organization and how you can use it effectively to make smarter decisions. Start learning and start generating beautiful charts by going to fundraisingreportcard.com. Now back to Metrics That Matter.
So next up, we've got Jackie from Phoenix, Arizona. She called in to 575-815-4573, just like you can. Here's her question.
Hi, my name is Jackie Ehrenberg. I am in Phoenix, Arizona, and I have a quick question for small nonprofits that I work with that I actually don't even get to work with because they're so small and so beginning in their work, and they don't even know where to start to put together a database. What would you say the first step should be? Thank you.
So Tim, fun fact for you.
Yeah.
Did you know I was born in Arizona? I am from Arizona.
I knew you were from Arizona. I wasn't sure if you were born there.
Yeah. So Jackie probably would be here in outside DC and say 85 degrees. You think that's hot? You know, because it gets up to like 110, 115 there. It's pretty.
It's a drier heat though, right?
Yeah, everyone says that. Don't. I mean, it is drier, but the humidity is actually worse. I am one vote for humidity being worse.
My best friend moved to Arizona as a kid. It's very sad because I was in Indiana, and that's very far away.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, Jackie, right? Thank you for calling in.
You. Arizona's a wonderful place.
Yeah, I miss it actually a little bit. If any of my old friends ever listen to this, I miss it. Not you necessarily, but it.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan episode, best episode ever. Okay, right, yes. Yeah. So,
good question. You're insanely small, and you're just getting started as a nonprofit. Where do you start with this stuff?
So I want to actually kind of throw this back at you, Tim, and you'll see why in a moment.
Okay.
Before we think about designing or getting into any type of database, what do you think we need to think about first?
Your goal of this database.
What is the objective? Yeah. Right? Before we can start talking about
your strategy.
It's partly the strategy, but it's really, it's strategy before tactics, which we've written about in many blog posts and things like that, and something we believe in, strongly here at MarketSmart. But really, we need to have an understanding of, do we need a database? The answer is probably yes. Mm-hmm. If you're starting a nonprofit, or if you're a consultant who's working with a smaller organization, they probably need a database, because not maintaining records becomes really untenable in your head. It's really tricky to scale an organization when one person's trying to remember.
Paper records aren't the answer.
So the answer is yes, we probably need a database. But then you start asking, there's this great method. It's called the 7 Whys. And it comes from the Toyota Corporation. Okay, Google 7 Whys. Maybe more show notes here. It poses the idea that you need to ask why 7 times to understand the root cause, the root reason why we're about to do something. So we're talking about the need to start to set up a database. Why? Oh, because the executive director, who's also the founder, who's also super mission driven by this thing that we're working on, is starting to run out of space in her head to maintain relationships with everyone. Okay, well, why is she trying to maintain relationships with everyone? Well, because she's trying to raise more money. Okay, so now we need a database, but we also need something that helps us with donation management. You need to start asking those kind of prodding questions to set up your objectives, and then you can start to take the next step to build out a database. One thing I will mention is you are not the first organization or person who has gone through this process. There's 1.5 or 6 million nonprofits in the United States. You are unique and you are special, just like, Tim, you and me, we're unique and we're special. But people have done this before. So that's why vendors do exist. But when you're on that smaller side, you need to be really price conscious, really cognizant of what you're going to be investing in. So Jackie, one thing I'll mention to you is there's an organization, Little Green Light. I don't think they have an office in Arizona. They're Pacific Northwest, so not even too terribly close to you. Their software is pretty damn good. It's pretty damn cheap. So if there's a recommendation I can make here, it would be Google search them and even do free trials and things like that of other vendors as well. Get a sense for what currently exists, because it exists for a reason, because other people, other organizations have gone through this process and thought through what they need, what their objectives are, and these vendors have built it out. But see if it aligns.
Would you suggest a low-cost solution versus one of the free ones that may be out there? I don't know what's out there.
Free is I mean, even look at our fundraising report card tool, Tim, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's free, but there's a premium version.
Sure.
Free's never free.
Oh, I know. You'll spend more time in some of the free solutions to get to do what you want it to do.
I had a conversation last night with a consultant who was helping an organization transition off of their free Salesforce onto Wild Apricot, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Salesforce is probably the best example of a free thing.
But the issue is it's not free, because you need to then pay a consultant tens of thousands of dollars to set it up.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay that consultant tens of thousands of dollars to set it up properly, it's sure as hell isn't going to be free, because all your time is going to be spent trying to work it. And it's just, it's meh.
And then the other question I guess you have to answer at the beginning, or something you should answer at the beginning, is what data do you want in this database, so you set a standard for all your records.
And that's where the vendors do come in. That's why you shouldn't really be designing a database in-house, because they've, for the most part, you brought up a good example in our previous section about, well, do they have a delineation between individuals, foundations, organizations? Some of them do. Like, you should not have to go to the drawing board and say, okay, we're about to devise up this database schema and we want a star schema and relationships between these tables. Like, that is not the responsibility.
So nonprofits aren't hiring FileMaker developers to make their own custom thing.
The issue is, Tim, I have had so many phone calls with people that are on FileMaker, and it makes me want to pull my hair out. I'm sorry to everyone that. Yeah. But
I've heard great things about FileMaker in other industries.
It's a lot of setup. A lot of setup. So for you, Jackie, I'd look at Little Green Light. I would Google search 7 Whys Toyota methodology. It's on their corporate our philosophy page, and pose those questions to yourself and the staff at the organization, and you'll be able to start to identify where you should take that first next step.
Great. Yeah, and thanks, Jackie, for the question. That was great. There's probably a lot of people like you just getting started and want to know where to start.
Yep.
Next up, Solomon from Pleasant Hill, California, calls in just like you can to 575-815-4573. Here's his question.
Hi, this is Solomon Belletta, Director of the Sanford Institute of Philanthropy at John F. Kennedy University. My question with respect to metrics that matter is, how do you begin to introduce the whole idea of metrics to organizations that may not have the history or the appetite to engage in discussions or implementations of metrics? What are some of the initial steps that organizations could take to introduce metrics into the organization's culture? That's my question. Thank you very much. Bye.
So not an uncommon question we've gotten about just getting started with metrics. And something I just want to bring up at the beginning here is maybe finding co-workers, colleagues that share that same interest, and starting to build this team of people that are in support of this, so you have enough support for when you do go to the higher ups that they'd be on board with it as well.
Yeah. So just like before with Amanda's question, there's kind of two things at play here. Before I dive into them, I just want to say thank you, Solomon. Good to hear your voice. Solomon runs the Sanford Institute of Philanthropy, the Denny T. Sanford Institute of Philanthropy out there in Pleasant Hill, California. And they offer, just like we do with the podcast, a ton of great resources, trainings and things like that. A lot of them local, affiliated with John F. Kennedy University. So just want to give a little shout out to the Sanford Institute of Philanthropy. Definitely SIP, S-I-P. So Google search that and look at all their compelling and good resources. But to Solomon's question about kind of, how to get started, there's two pieces at play here. One is what you just mentioned, which I'm going to call building a case for support, because that's essentially what it is. And the other is that why question. Why is it important that we bring metrics to the table? And it's pretty simple and easy to answer when we look at our for-profit peers. We can look at for-profit companies and see their reliance on trying to be evidence-based, and even some of our nonprofit peers who have executed effectively, we see that the potential to scale and grow the organization's mission is by being evidence-based, by using data, by making informed decisions that are less rooted on hunches and more rooted on, what the numbers are telling us to do. But building that appetite or aptitude to look at that information, it's just like what you were describing, Tim. It's building a case for support. And how do you start to do that? Yes, if you are at a shop and you have this desire, you've been reading ebooks, you've read Steve McLaughlin's book, Data Driven Nonprofits, you've read my little ebook, find someone else internally that's on board. You have to sell to them. Daniel Pink has a fantastic book, To Sell is Human. And the idea is that everybody sells. In every interaction, every day, you're selling. Mm-hmm. So if you actually see and you believe in your heart that if the organization you're a part of will grow better, will scale further, will provide its mission and programs more effectively if it gets a little bit data-driven, a little evidence-based, then sell that. And the way that you can start to do that is start simple. Start with easy to understand and easy to digest metrics. Please, please, please do not go to your colleague who you want to get on board or someone in a leadership position who you want to get on board and try to explain to them the donor acquisition cost versus lifetime value analysis and how you're going to identify the most profitable marketing channel of all time. They're going to cut you off. They're not interested. You need to give them something simple. Hey, retention rate's been going down. Show them a graph. Oh, why? Okay, now you're getting them interested. You're selling. You got to have an offer, and that offer needs to be pretty simple, and you pull them in the door so that you can start to give them a demonstration, give them an overview.
Yeah.
So my recommendation, Solomon, is first answer the why question. Make sure, why am I so interested in building this culture of being data-driven? And the answers are out there. They're in Steve's book, they're in the podcast, etc. But answer that question, internalize it, write it down, and then build the case for support and sell. And that's kind of the process. That's what we've even done here at MarketSmart, to move away from business hunches. We want it to be business data-driven suggestions and solutions. So we sold that to the team, we sold that to the leadership, and now we use data to drive our decision making. It's the same exact thing.
When you're at meetings and you're asked what's this next project you're working on, and you can share it and you can share why you want to do this project, and you can use data to help you pitch that, and over time those pitches will start to make more and more sense to people.
Yeah,
hopefully.
absolutely. Yeah. So those are the two pieces of the puzzle there. It's a little abstract, but it's the truth. And if I could recommend To Sell is Human, read that book. It's I don't want to say it's a classic, but it's really good, and it really frames the idea that you need to, if you believe it, you really have to believe it. Because if you're trying to sell snake oil, it doesn't matter how good you are at trying to connive or convince people, but if you really believe it in your heart that if the organization becomes data-driven, it'll fulfill some of its objectives, and you see that path, sell it. You got to sell it. Read the book. It talks about how to do that.
You got really close to the, if I can believe it, I can dream it, believe I can fly, the Michael Jordan thing again.
So I don't know, Tim, if you knew this. There was one fun fact earlier for our listeners that I was born in Arizona. There was another fun fact that until I realized that I stopped growing at 5 feet 10 inches, I had hopes of becoming the first and only Shefska, my last name is Shefska, Shefska kin to play in the National Basketball Association.
Are you as tall as Muggsy Bogues? I don't even know. He's the short dude, right?
I think I'm taller, but the issue is I have like a 6-inch vertical leap.
Yeah, that's important. That
Spud Webb, you remember Spud Webb?
I do, yeah.
He could jump so high. I thought I could do that someday. I remember I used to, even more Easter eggs for our listeners. Like those ankle weights? I would do those jumps with the ankle weights. Okay. Yeah, I could. I can't. No.
Okay.
No. My career was short-lived. Yeah.
They don't have designated shooters in basketball. You have to be on the.
You're looking at it, man,
the whole time.
I was in the corner, and I was also kind of heavy at the time, so I didn't like to run that much. And I was just in the corner. I touch it, shoot. And I was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I thought you could make a career out of that. And then I ended up at MarketSmart, and they don't even let me, shoot, paper into the trash cans anymore. Yeah. Sometimes on Fridays, though.
Yeah, a little out of practice.
But Solomon, thanks for calling in.
Solomon,
Jackie, Amanda, we really appreciate it. And, keep them coming.
Yeah. Call in to 575-815-4573 to have your question answered on the podcast. And we'd really appreciate And it's been great so far with everyone calling in. And we'll be back for not a Michael Jordan episode, Sally.
Kobe Bryant, 24.
Is that what
2-4?
Oh, gosh.
Kobe Bryant. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Not as good as Michael, but
No.
he's
No.
good.
Leave a comment if Kobe Bryant is better than Michael Jordan. Let's totally. Maybe this could be our first viral episode.
Sure.
It could go viral based off of a basketball fight. Okay, never mind.
We'll talk to you next time. Back.
See you, Tim.